Hi, my name is Jake Thompson, and if you had met me 5 years ago, you probably wouldn't have liked me. I wouldn't blame you. Back then, I was a different person. A cocky, self-absorbed guy who thought he had life all figured out. I had the perfect body, the perfect job, the perfect car. I spent hours at the gym sculpting my muscles, showing off at every opportunity. I was the kind of guy who turned heads, and I loved every second of it. Then, life threw me a curveball. One rainy evening, as I was speeding down the highway, feeling invincible, everything changed in an instant. The tires skidded. The car spun out of control. And before I could even process what was happening, my world went black. When I woke up in the hospital, I couldn't move my legs. At first, I thought it was just the medication or the shock, but as the days passed, the truth set in. I was paralyzed. The doctors called it a miracle that I survived. It didn't feel like one. I went from being the strongest guy in the room to someone who couldn't even stand up. I was trapped in my own body, drowning in self-pity and anger. For months, I refused to accept reality. I pushed away my family, my friends, anyone who tried to help. I was embarrassed, ashamed of what I'd become. The man I once was, the athlete, the heartbreaker, the guy who prided himself on his physical strength, he was gone. And in his place was someone I didn't recognize. But life doesn't stop just because you do. One day, during one of my lowest moments, a nurse named Daniel sat by my bedside. He had seen my kind before, the ones who believed their lives were over. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "You have two choices, Jake. You can spend the rest of your life being bitter, or you can fight back." Something about those words hit me differently. I had always been a fighter. Quitting had never been in my DNA, and I wasn't about to start now. So I made a decision. I was going to reclaim my life, no matter how impossible it seemed. Rehabilitation was brutal. Every movement was a battle. Every small victory felt like climbing a mountain. Learning to use a wheelchair was one thing, but what really changed my life was discovering handcycling. The first time I saw a para-athlete riding a handcycle, something inside me woke up. I felt that old fire again, the one that had fueled me back when I was chasing superficial goals. Only this time, I had a real purpose. I trained harder than I ever had before. It took years of sweat, pain, and perseverance, but I refused to give up. Slowly, I regained control, not of my legs, but of my life. And eventually, I started competing. The thrill of the race, the wind against my face, the adrenaline of pushing my body to the limit. It all reminded me of who I really was. Now I travel the world competing in some of the toughest paracycling events on the planet. I've crossed continents, raced through deserts, and even cycled across the 7 seas, proving that limits exist only in the mind. Every time I cross a finish line, I remember the guy I used to be, and the man I have become. People ask me all the time how I do it, how I found the strength to keep going. The answer is simple: because I chose to. Because I refused to let my past define my future. Life will knock you down. Hard. It will take things from you, things you thought you couldn't live without. But here's the thing. It's not about what you lose. It's about what you do with what's left. I'm not the same Jake I used to be. I'm stronger. Not because of my body, but because of my spirit. And if I can rise from rock bottom and redefine what's possible, so can you. Never let anyone tell you what you can't do. The only limits that exist are the ones you refuse to break. Now, get out there and prove to the world and to yourself that anything is possible.